Hey everybody, this is Rustin with Metalholic and The Examiner, and with us tonight, the lovely and ever-talented Bridgette Oliver of Siva Addiction. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. How are things in Oklahoma?
It's hot here. This week we are I think it's 100 degrees today. It is hot.
This would be a perfect time to be on tour, right?
It would be nice to be north at this point, yes.
Now, you guys just recently finished up a tour with Saliva, didn't you?
We did. Saliva, 12 Stones, and Royal Bliss. And that tour actually did take us north. We went all the way up through the Midwest, through Michigan, and across over to the East Coast, up and down the East Coast, and all through the South. So it was a really good and extensive tour. It was 5.5 weeks. It's nice to be home. But yeah, it's hot. It's hot here.
Got a little downtime now before you guys go out somewhere again?
Yeah, we got a little bit of time. We're at home kind of regrouping and relaxing and sleeping in our own beds and writing some new tunes. We're always doing that. So,
for those who are not familiar with Siva Addiction yet, or with you for that matter, I sort of want to get a little backstory on both, if that works for you.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about the history of you and how you came to music. Was there a moment of epiphany for you or something, or an album? Or?
I've been singing since I was 12 years old, and I was doing country music, and pretty much, I've always enjoyed singing. I've been singing since I was little bitty, but I started doing country professionally when I was 12, and I was singing in Las Vegas and doing, big stuff for a kid. And my grandparents were the ones who were supporting me and pushing me to do all that. And they kind of grabbed me and pulled me back, and they said they wanted me to have an education and go to school and actually have a childhood. And that kind of music kind of went by the wayside, and I started going to school and focusing on, going to college and making something of myself, and kind of forgot about stuff, forgot about music, forgot about doing any of that. And when I was probably about 21, I decided that country wasn't my realm that I wanted to do. I toured and I'd done all kinds of stuff through my teenage years with it, and I decided that it was kind of like being a glorified karaoke singer. That's kind of how I felt. And I'm not saying that that's all country singers. I'm not saying that that's typical for the genre. That's how I personally felt. I felt like I was doing somebody else's music. I was just a pretty face singing somebody else's songs, and I hated it. I was working with studio musicians and touring musicians, and everybody seemed like they were there for a paycheck. Nobody was there to write and be part of something and try to, grow as a team. They were just there to collect a paycheck and move on to their next project. And I felt alone, and I wanted a group. I wanted it to be more than just about me. I wanted it to be a group effort where everybody that was involved in the songwriting process, that the songs that we were performing every night meant something, and I hated being interviewed when I was doing country, because people would ask me, what's this song mean to you? What were you thinking when you wrote it? All this stuff. And I was like, well, and I'd have to make something up or force looking like a fool saying, I didn't really have anything to do with it. The only thing that I had to do with it was picking it, So I had to talk about how I would relate to it. So really, I feel like I'm rambling, but really, when I came to rock, I was looking for the camaraderie of having a group of guys that wanted the same goals and aspirations and things as I did. And then two, through music exploration, I discovered Black Hole Sun. Black Hole Sun was the song that Soundgarden, obviously, that transformed my thought process on how I could write lyrics. It went from the very straightforward country, literal, this happened and this happened and this happened, to, you could be more ambiguous, and you could say something without really saying anything, and it was left to interpretation, and I loved it. So I was like, when I looked it up, and I was like, what does this song mean? Nobody could tell me. Like, everybody had theories, but it was like there's so many options of what that song meant, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed having, the relativity of being able to relate to so many different people on different levels. That was the inspirational album, I guess, or at least a song for sure, that moved me from the country genre into the rock genre.
So where did you take it from there? You start looking for band members? I mean, did you have a direction in mind?
Really, no. I stumbled on an internet posting and kind of just met Brandon through the local rock scene here in Oklahoma City, and he was playing drums in another band, and we just kind of met through, mutual acquaintances, and just happened to start working with each other, and then we recruited the rest of the guys, and all of that. This lineup, we've been together since 2009, and it was me, and then Brandon, and then we added Andy, which is the lead guitar player, and then Jesse, the bass player, and Vince was the last. He's our rhythm. And from then, here we are. We've released 2 full-length albums and touring the States.
Well, where did the name come from?
Siva is actually Sanskrit for one who is destined for success. So originally we were just Siva, and we signed to a management deal back in 2009, and we released publicity for that, obviously, and so we started building a name for ourselves outside of our little tiny town. And once we did that, we realized that there was a band somewhere in Texas, I think, that was calling themselves Siva, that were defunct. They were no longer around, but they had released an album on an independent label. So they were threatening to sue if we didn't change something about the name. And so I've heard from hundreds of people, radio folk to fans to everybody, why you call yourself Siva Addiction? That doesn't make any sense. Why don't you just go by Siva? And it's more or less, we call ourselves Siva when we say, we're doing this or that, we're Siva. But the technical Siva Addiction, it breaks down to we're addicted to the constant pursuit of success.
Makes sense to me. I mean, I think if you're an A-type personality like I am, that makes perfect sense all the way around. So, but
yeah, you just can't give up.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure most people just call you Siva anyway. So, unless it's like the Jethro Tull thing and they call you Siva. So. They've thought that maybe that's my last name, or that they'll call me that. Hey, there's Siva, and I'm like, no, my name's Bridgette. I'm in Siva. Well, let's talk about the new album. The new album's called Bad Decisions.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I got to ask, what bad decisions have you made?
Oh, Lord. We don't have enough time. Oh, yeah, we don't even have enough time to touch on those. But I think where the name came from, obviously, there's a title track on the album called Bad Decisions. And it's pretty much like a lot of the songs on the album relate to relationships and dealing with interpersonal relationships between, whether they be flings or steady relationships or friendships or whatever, but they deal with, personal relationships. And Bad Decisions in particular is about obviously a guy and a girl, that the girl just wants to, she's thinking about this guy. Like, she found his shirt under her bed, and she's like, hey, that was pretty fun. I know we can't really be together, but, just reminiscing on the time that they did spend, and, maybe having, one more little hurrah. So, and I think it's people can relate to that. Anybody who's been in a terrible relationship that just obviously you two didn't work out, and nothing you could do would make it work. But that doesn't mean it wasn't still fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that old argument anyway, that if you never make any mistakes, you
right. Right.
You can never appreciate when you get it right. So.
So that's where Bad Decisions came from, and obviously, it's a good marketable name, and something when we come out on stage and go, is anybody making any bad decisions out there? It's across the board, easy to push and promote and talk about, and people relate to it, and they're like, oh yeah, I've made some bad decisions. Maybe I'd like this album. So.
Well, and I'm sure more than one of us has had a one-night rodeo too, huh?
There you go. You'd be surprised how many people don't put the connotation of one-night rodeo and one-night stand together. But I always tell them, I was like, just go watch the video. You'll get it.
I think we've all been there at one point or another, especially if you're in the rock and roll business. But and a great first single it was, very catchy, and of course everybody can relate to the idea there, if not in reality, at least in fantasy.
Sure. Yeah, what we were doing with that, we kind of took the stereotypical, the front man of a band picking out some groupie chick and taking her back to the bus and having to lay with her. We kind of turned it on its head and said, chicks can do that too. So that's pretty much what we were going for. So it's little bit of girl power, I guess. I don't know. Absolutely. That's what they tell me, girl power. I'm like, oh no, just I can do anything a guy can do. Any girl can.
Speaking of absolutely, speaking of girl power, of course, and every time I ask a female vocalist this, I usually get male vocalists in return. But who sort of inspired you vocally?
Male vocalists, for sure.
Of course.
Chris Cornell is one of the big ones. Obviously, Black Hole Sun, we talked about that, and the lyrical content of his writing style it blows me away. And Trent Reznor is another one. And again, just the ambiguity and just the depth of his lyrics are it's one of those, like, I like the lyricists that make you sit down and think about what they're talking about.
Right.
And make you actually ponder, what is it that he's trying to say here? Maybe I'm missing it. It's not just, surface topic.
Are you into writing deep lyrics then?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, from Artifice, our first album, you can see a lot more of the more ambiguity from my writing on that album, more so than this album. This album, we decided to focus a little bit more, straight up in your face rock and roll, just driving, good, fun, easy to listen to, easy to sing along to, just driving rhythm. And with Artifice, it was a heavier album for sure. It was being the first breakout album. We had a lot to say and had a lot of issues to get through, issues from our childhoods or issues from our relationships or issues that artists typically, that's our outlet for expressing those kind of emotions so we don't go crazy and hurt somebody.
So
we write
issues
songs
from your bad decisions.
Yeah, right. See, now it's by the time Bad Decisions comes around, it's all fun and light, and we're like, oh, we've already dealt with all the hard, weird stuff. So now we're just gonna have one-night rodeos and blow people's heads off if they treat us bad.
Well, they often say it's the third album that really sets the landmark for what the band will ultimately be. Do you think that's true?
Sure, and I believe that. I believe with every, I believe with every album we constantly grow and experience more of what we're capable of doing. With Artifice, I didn't expect us to be able to do anything better than that when we did it. With Bad Decisions, I'm extremely proud of it, and I don't know if we could possibly do something any better. I'm not saying that we can't, but that feeling when you finish something, it's like, oh, this is it. This is my masterpiece for right now. Until you come up with the next best thing, and that becomes your masterpiece.
Right. Well, Artifice was, like you said, heavier, maybe a little moodier, more, intellectual, lyrically, more deep, if you will. And this one was more lighthearted, in-your-face rock and roll. Perhaps by the third album, it will be sort of a combination of both, or there might be a third element that comes out in your guys' music. So
absolutely,
you're constantly sort of growing and redefining yourself, if, as every band should. Mm-hmm. But So, in this day and age, with all the way the music industry is, how much are you guys making use of social media and whatnot to really get yourselves out?
Oh, God. Social media is like the cornerstone of our ability to reach our fans. I mean, it's completely revolutionized how we contact our fans and communicate with them. And, no more are people having to mail in to be part of a fan group, or to be able to contact the band. You don't have to wait until they come and play a show. We're at their fingertips. People can send us a message or chat with us, or post on our wall or whatever. They can contact us, and it's immediate. And it's just the way that we can send information out and they can respond to it. It's changed everything, and it's made it so much more intimate, if you will, I guess. Just being able to make us more accessible to the everyday person,
which is great for fans. But I've talked to a number of people about this over the last year or so, about the fact that the era of the rock star is gone. The mystique is sort of gone. Do you miss that we no longer have that age where the rock stars are like way up there and almost beyond our reach?
Not just untouchable. But at the same time, I have to, I was raised to never forget your roots, never forget where you come from, and never get that mentality that you're better than anyone, because every person who was involved in getting you up the ladder is responsible for making sure that you stay there. And if you forget that for a second, if you forget that it's the fans, it's the people who come to the shows, it's the people who buy the albums, it's the people who, talk to you on Facebook. It's those people who are making it possible for you to do what you do, and making it possible for us to tour and, live the lifestyle that we do.
Talking about, I just had a brain fart there. It happens. It's the end of a long weekend. I'll have to edit this part out. Sure. Anyway, with all you guys have done with the first two albums, all the touring, the recording, and everything, there's got to be one or two great stories that you can tell us about things that you guys have experienced so far that have stood out for you guys.
Oh, man. There's so many. I would say, just on this last run alone, we really started focusing on playing this new material, and we just released the album in February, so it was the kickoff of the tour, and we revamped our entire set to play this new music so people would get an idea of what's on the album so they could buy it, and the response from playing the new material versus the Artifice material, to see how people react to your work is just, it's the greatest high ever. Mm-hmm. To actually see a crowd just going nuts for whatever it might be, and know that it's your cumulative effort that you're performing for them. And just the responses afterwards, we always go to the merch booth after we get off the stage every single time, and we'll stay there and take pictures and shake hands and talk to people as long as we possibly can until the venues shut us down and kick us out. And it was overwhelming, this last run, just completely overwhelming. We just got bombarded, and everywhere we went was just great. It was just crazy. And I think that's probably, besides being on stage and performing, interacting with the fans and interacting with people in general, whether they come up and tell us that we were terrible or they come up and tell us that we were amazing. It's just that interaction and knowing that we're touching someone, that we're able to convey some sort of emotion in them. And it means the world. It means the world to us. And it's something that we all remember. We remember when those people come up to us and, high-five us and tell us how they were moved by a certain song or, something that we did or said.
So has anything sort of strange happened to you guys out on tour yet? I'm always hearing these war stories.
Well, there's always a random, we have Jesse is, he's really competitive, I guess you might say. And he typically gets challenged to drinking challenges, if you will. And we had a promoter in, I want to say it was somewhere in Texas. We had a promoter that challenged him to a Jaeger drinking challenge.
Oh God, that could be good.
if you know anything about Jesse, he is a Jaeger drinking fool, and he's a big guy. He's a mountain of a man, and he can put away his Jaeger. And I think the promoter did not counter into the fact that he drinks Jaeger all the time. But by the time that we went on stage, Jesse almost couldn't say his name. But he continued to play the show, and they continued drinking, and he continued to bring him shots while we were up on stage. The promoter kept bringing him shots and feeding him shot after shot after shot in between songs. And by the end of the night, it was Texas. It was Denton, Texas, because I, too, do not remember that evening. By the end of the night, we forgot what city we were in. We forgot what we were doing. We forgot where we were supposed to sleep. And the next morning was complete hell. But it was one of those nights you'll never remember, but at the same time, it's a night you'll never forget. You always hear that.
There's a song in there, just right there, you know.
Right.
I'll never remember, but I'll never forget. So, well, you know, you were in Texas. Go big or go home, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, and Jesse does some bizarre stuff anyway. He just posted on Facebook or Twitter, I once licked a bug off of a windshield for free Taco Bell. What's the crazy things you've done?
Oh yeah. He is the, I guess you might say he's the plucky comic relief of the group. He will do anything for free food. Anything. He's snorted wasabi sauce up his nose through a straw for Chinese food. He licked the bug for Taco Bell. It's just he'll do just about anything for food.
And what's the craziest thing you've done?
I am usually the mama of the group. Actually, I don't do a whole lot of partaking in the nonsense. I usually am the one trying to wrangle all the cats. I call myself the cat herder because it's impossible to wrangle everybody when they go in opposite directions all the time. But I think I'm the mama usually, and every once in a while, like Denton, every once in a while I have my moments where I just go off the deep end. But
cut loose.
For the most part, I think I'm usually the one that wrangles.
Your own version of a one-night rodeo. So obviously, you love your tattoos. What? I
do.
What's the addiction there for you?
Well, I got my first tattoo was my back piece, my wings and my sun. And my Trinity knot, that's all one piece. And I did it together as a whole. Some people think that it's a separate piece, but it's all one. And that was my first tattoo. And I just decided I just decided that if I was going to get one, I'd never had one before. They weren't even legal in Oklahoma at the time when I first got my stuff started.
Wow. But,
yeah, we're kind of a behind state. We still have 3-2 beer, and we just got a lottery. So we're kind of behind on the curve, but so I decided that I wanted to get a tattoo, and I decided I wanted it to be big. I wanted it to cover a lot of area, like kind of go big or go home kind of thing. And so I drew up my little design, and I of course I had no idea what was capable of being drawn on my skin. I drew it on a little 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I was thinking that would center up really nice on my shoulder blades. And, you know, I just drew it because I'm an artist, so I just drew it myself, and I got all proud, and I went and talked to my artist. He looked at it for about 5 minutes. Not even that long. That was 5 seconds. He looked at it, glanced at it, he watered it up, threw it down, and he goes, okay, sit down. And I was like, what? And he goes, sit down. So I sit down. He draws freehand on my back with a Sharpie what's on my back now. And I looked in the mirror, and I was like, holy crap, that's big. And he goes, you wanted it big, right? Go big, go home. And I was like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, okay, let's do it. And my tattoo artist, so I wouldn't chicken out. He's like, he goes, this is pretty serious. He said, are you ready to like be the ball, grasshopper? Because this is gonna be serious. This is gonna be some serious time. And I was like, I'm ready. Let's do it. He started mid-wing, right over my kidney area, just mid-wing, so I couldn't wuss out. Otherwise, I'd be flying in a circle, he said. So from then on, like, I spent, my back took 42 hours. We did it over 3 months. After that experience, you know, I took a little time off because I was like, I don't think I ever want another tattoo again. Never want one another. No, that's enough. This is all I wanted, just one. And about a year passed, and anybody who has ever gotten a tattoo knows what I'm talking about. You just get this itch. You get the itch of, I want another one. I want something else. I want, you know, I don't know what I want, but I want something else. So you start developing ideas of what you want, and, you know, so you start going through the process again. So about a year and a half went by, and then I decided to get my peacock on my left shoulder, and it was a little half sleeve piece. Right. And I wanted it to be the start of a half sleeve, so I had him design it that way. But yeah, when everything happens, like, each tattoo usually represents something big that happened in my life. Mm-hmm. And my wings were a symbol of the end of my first marriage. Like, my freeing, I was married to my high school sweetheart, right. And we'd been together forever and ever and ever and ever, like 8.5 years. And when we divorced and split, it was just like a freeing kind of sense. You know, I was free to explore the world and do whatever I wanted, and wasn't tied down to anything anymore. And so that's where those came from. And then Eve, my peacock, she came about when I decided to make a change in myself. And peacock are a symbol of renewal and rebirth and regrowth, kind of like a phoenix, but more on a personal level, that I wanted to change something about myself. And I did. And it was a promise to myself, more or less, and that every time I look at her, she reminds me to be a better person and be the person that I know in my heart I should be. And then my flower that I got, I have a lily that's kind of like it's not like it's like a fantasy lily, I guess, if you will. It's like blue and green and yellow and there's all kinds of crazy colors. And that one, it was the first one that I actually didn't have some life-changing, life-altering something happen to me that made me want to get a tattoo. I really just wanted something to fill out the rest of my arm to make it more of a half sleeve, and I wanted something that meant something to me, but wasn't really like, something crazy has happened in my life, so I want to have something that a memento, like a souvenir kind of thing. And so I got this lily. You can tell I'm looking at him as I'm describing him to you. I'm sitting there just looking at my stuff. But yeah, like, I really like the way that they make I like the way they make my skin look, and I like the way that it's almost like it's a reflection of who I am on the inside, but it's also like an outward, it's something that I can wear, kind of like a piece of jewelry that means a lot, if that makes sense. Right. It's something that you can outwardly show the rest of the world, and they can choose to interact with you or not about it. But, it's, like I said, it's like wearing a family heirloom piece of jewelry, and that you wear everywhere.
Well, and colors are so vibrant. You see these people now that have these tattoos, and it's just like gorgeous because it's so bold and lively and full of color. And it's like, I keep thinking, what's that going to look like in 20, 30 years, though? How does it maintain vibrancy, People
always say that to me. My mom was the first one. My mom and my grandma. My grandma was a decorative painter, so she paints on everything from china to, canvas to everything that will stand still long enough, she'll paint it. And they're very much against tattoos, both of them, my mom and my grandma. And when I got my wings done, obviously it took a series of progressive sessions to get done. So when I first came to my mom, she had to help me put the ointment on my back, all the ointment and stuff to let it heal. I didn't tell her what I'd done, and I just walked in and lifted my shirt up and showed her. I was like, Mom, can you help me put some stuff on my back? And I raised up my shirt. She goes, Bridgette, Leanne, what in the world did you do to yourself? And I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, that better not be permanent. And I was like, what are you talking about? I just played it off of, she kept saying, is that a rub-on? Is that like a Sharpie or something? And I was like, no, Mom, it's for real. It'll be there. And as the progression of the tattoo kept going, she's like, what's that going to look like when you're 90? And I said, Mom, when I'm 90, I'm not going to give a damn what my tattoo looks like when someone's wiping my butt for me and changing my diapers. Not going to care. I was like, I'm going to enjoy it for the next 50 years of my life or however long I live.
I remember telling my first wife had gotten one on her upper breast of a dagger with 2 hearts through it, and I had told her not to get it. And, 3 kids later, it looks like a pterodactyl attacking Tokyo. I'm just like, if you're going to get them in wise places where they're not.
Right. That's the other thing I would suggest, too. If you're going to get them in your 20s, and, obviously they're going to be around forever. They're going to be around and I guess you can get them removed, but just plan on them being around forever. Get them somewhere where, if you get fat, like for me, if I decide I want to have a baby one of these days, I don't want to have a tattoo across my belly that's going to stretch out and be all weird and gross looking. I thought about that. So, these girls that have these cute little, scrolls across their crotch region, right above their right below their belly button or whatever, all that's going to look like crap. But it's stuff you got to plan for. If you're never going to have kids, it doesn't matter. If you never plan on gaining some weight.
Exactly, and as we grow older, who knows what happens? But so I just always wondered tattoos. Every time I sit down with somebody in person, I always have them go over their tattoos with me because they've all got a story behind them, and it's always great to hear. So before we get out of here, a few more quick things. What are you into outside of music? That's pretty much your entire life. So what do you do when you're not doing music?
When I'm not doing music, I like to paint. Obviously, my grandma inspired me to be really creative and be an artist and draw and paint and do all that kind of stuff. I also do veterinary medicine.
Wow.
Before I was, it's kind of odd. Before I was doing country music, I was actually going to school and working full-time as a vet assistant, a vet technician. And I was actually applying to vet school. I'd done all my prerequisites, and I applied to a vet school and was set on going. And that's what I was going to do. I was going to be a vet. I wanted to be a veterinary ophthalmologist, actually. So I wanted to be a specialist and work on eyes and take care of cataracts and, glaucoma and all the weird eye diseases for dogs and cats, obviously. But
animals can't just smoke weed.
No, I guess you could hotbox them, but I don't think that works so well. But when I applied to vet school, it's actually the month that I applied to vet school, that I should have received a, yes, you're in, no, you're not, here's where your classes are, you're going to start. That is the year that I got my record deal for country, my first album that I released in country. So there I had to make this pivotal decision, do I go to vet school and forget music, or do I do music and turn around and do vet school later? And I decided that, music is fleeting, and it's something that you have to do when you're a relatively young person, or at least break in when you're a relatively young person. And I could always go back to vet school. I could always go back to school and do that. So changed my plan, and here I am. But I can still vaccinate my dog and cut his toenails and do everything that I need to do and take care of my kids. That's what I call them.
So 30 years from now, when we do a Where Are They Now, we know where we'll find you.
Yeah, I will. I'll either be working at a clinic or have my own by then.
You're either going to be rocking out with animals every night or working on them. One of the two.
There you go.
All right. So, last question then before we get out of here, just for fun. Siva Addiction gets to go on tour with anybody. What would be the ultimate tour package for you to be on?
Oh, man. You'd get a different answer if you asked anybody in the group. If you're asking me, I would be ecstatic to be out with Black Label Society, Metallica, and of course Soundgarden, but it would be a weird package. That would be a very non-cohesive package, but I would be in heaven.
It's all rock and roll. It all comes together one way or another. We don't all listen to exactly the same thing. I'd be happy to go see, Kiss and Keith Urban on the same stage. So.
Hell yeah!
But Bridgette,
maybe do a run with Jason Aldean. That'd be cool.
There you go. Bridgette Oliver of Siva Addiction, the new album Bad Decisions, currently taking a much-needed rest, but hopefully back on the road soon. Do you guys know when you're heading back out yet?
We are currently in the process of getting stuff lined up. We don't have anything solid, but we do have things in the works, so we'll be out before the end of the summer.
We need to get you up here to the Pacific Northwest, because I don't recall ever seeing you guys up here. Have you made it this way yet?
We on this last live run, we went as far as Pottsville, Pennsylvania, and played like northeast and north central, like we did Michigan and Nebraska, and all through like Pacific Northwest, like north center west, maybe kind of, but not. We haven't got much west.
So we need to get you over to like Seattle and Idaho and Oregon and all those great
That'd be cool. We really want to do a West Coast run for sure.
That would be
go do the Nevada, California, Oregon, Washington, and get all those, because we've never been in that realm.
I didn't think so. So we definitely need to get you out here. Any last thing going on with the band that we need to know about? Stuff that's been kept under cloak and dagger till now?
We did a photo shoot last week, and those should be surfacing soon. Kind of a new look for us, for everybody involved in the band. So that'll be refreshing for people. Then until now, we kind of had some haphazard photos. Right now our promo stuff doesn't have Vince in it.
Right.
So he just recently came back to us. So now he'll be in it, and we're all more cohesive looking, and all the boys got makeovers done. So.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so
Makeover,
they're all
Oklahoma.
pretty.
Bridgette
Everybody's
Oliver,
pretty now.
Thank you. So they all match you then? Is that it? Is that what we're saying?
Something like that. We at least look like we belong in the same band.
Bridgette, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to Metalholic and The Examiner. We look forward to talking to you again soon, and hopefully seeing you in the not-too-distant future. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening in the hot and sweltering weather of Oklahoma.
Thank you. You do the same. I'm sure it's much cooler where you're at.
Definitely. And we will talk with you again real soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Take care. Bye.